How you guys doing? Well, thanks so much for coming to Hennepin History Museum here. It took me about an hour to find a parking lot. All those people going to the Minneapolis Institute of Art, try to watch Dead Egyptian. This is probably, you're lucky you're going to see a live Egyptian for the first time. First time you see a live Egyptian in a museum, so consider yourself lucky. Anyway, as you know, keeping with the shoe theme, this is also about shoes and barefoot, and I need some help from the audience, and aren't you glad you came in the first row here? And I like that first row to take their shoes off and help me out to inspire that story. Thank you. Come on, come on. Doesn't take much. Have a small feet. Thank you, thank you. Work on it. You have 5 minutes to do it. Anyway, well, this story took place in a small village in Egypt. I was 10 years old, and the village was very small, and just before CNN, Al Jazeera, and Facebook, life was very simple. People wake up sunrise and go to field and come back sunsets. You don't need Google Watch or GPS or anything. Things was rhythm and nice. And the family, the village only, one street, one store, one barber shop, and one mosque, and one elementary school. My family was the one who running the school. So all the teachers, my uncles, and my dad was the school principal. We lived kind of a separated house. 4 uncles, their families, living together one house. I think Trump was there, who was a wall, gated house. And we were very much living separated from the rest of the village. The village kids dress differently, they speak differently, and play different games. And that bothered me a lot, and I want to join in, and I always want to wear like them, and I want to play with them. But being the son of the principal really stood in the way. So at the school, I walk every morning. It's about a mile from my house to that school. You go across the village, and everybody's watching, and everybody making sure. Every move you make as the principal's son, it's been taken. So I couldn't be naughty. I couldn't kind of go and steal cucumber from the field like the rest of the kids. And I couldn't square, and everything was monitored. And in the school, my uncles, all my teachers, so kind of I was, as I mentioned, I was the principal's son. So in a way, a privileged kid. One day, the school hired a teacher from the city nearby. And that teacher was like a law and order kind of a guy, kind of a Republican kind of a deal. And every morning, he lined up all the students in the schoolyard. And, most of the students were poor kids. They come to school barefoot. I'm not saying 20% probably coming to the school barefoot. And he looked at it as those are troublemakers. And they have to have dress and wear their shoes. So every morning, he calls on all the students barefoot to come in the front, line up in one file, and he picks them up one by one. And every teacher in our school has a whip, and the whip tells the personality of the teacher. So everybody kind of very creative in how pick up the whip, a branch of a tree, or a roller, or a piece of wood, and a ladder, and all of that. But this city teacher has imagination of how this whip, it has to be like a whip from a certain tree there by the school, and he go through this every morning, beating the students up. And not just the physical pain, but the humiliation those students have every morning. That bothered me a lot. So I keep telling my dad about this city teachers. My dad was a busy man, has a business running the school, and didn't really have time to deal with this, have more important things to run. So every day I'm thinking, how can I deal with this? The city teacher was treating me very special. I'm the one who's smart. I'm the one who, Ahmed, you're the best student in the class, that kind of stuff. You're the smartest kid in the class. And all this kind of widened the gap between me and the rest of the students. So one day I thought to myself, how could I deal with this guy? Nobody can stop him. He's doing this every day. My dad is busy and all of this. So spend all night thinking, what can I do? What can I do? And how can I use my privilege to deal with this? I thought to myself, what if I went to school barefoot? Here comes the idea of shoes. What if I go to the school barefoot, and when he calls for the barefoot students, I just go online, sneak into the line and stand and see how he is going to react. And he's going to be a moral dilemma presented to that city teacher. How he's going to deal with the principal's son standing in the line the same as the barefoot feet kids. The problem was, how do I sneak out of the house, go through the village barefoot? So that's another problem. Thought about it for a little bit, and I thought, I'll just, in the morning, I leave the house as I usually do, dress, short shirt and shoes, walk through the village, go to school, and before I go to school, I just take my shoes off and hide it in some of the bushes there. So I did. Line up in the morning line up, city teacher came, stood, calling on all the students that barefoot come in the front, and he started the beating from right to left, It's very important, right to left. In Arabic, right to left. So the beating, right to left. We're very organized when it comes to violence. So as the beating coming closer and approaching me, and the cries, and it's getting louder and louder, I'm terrified. Nobody paid attention to, everybody's preoccupied with what's going on, so people didn't bother me standing in that line. And so as the teacher coming closer, and when I get terrified, my face freezes. You cannot tell how terrified inside. It just freezes. So the teacher came, and all of a sudden he's looking, and he found the principal's son in the front of him. He looked down my feet, and he found me like this, barefoot, and like this, kids. Thank you so much for the visual aid here. And now everybody kind of looking at the teacher and see how they're going to react. By this time, they know I'm with the barefoot students. So the teachers, his reaction was very quick, didn't make this last for a long time. Start dismissing everybody, curse. Tomorrow I'm going to do this double and all this, and tomorrow is another day. And he dismissed the rest of the line. Now, I am Spartacus. I am the hero who stood to this injustice. And that day, the students, for the first time, the villager students, who refused to let me play with them, or refused to always call me the principal's son and all of that, for the first time, they call me with my first name. I'm no longer the principal's son. Now I'm one of them, and the trust came back, and we became a student like everybody else. Thank you very much for listening.